Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Grav, and welcome back once again to another Rip Roaring Reds. I'm joined on this lovely evening by Jace. How are you doing?
Mate, I'm doing well. Look at this new setup, crystal HD camera, 4K. Yeah, it's the weekend, and there's Arsenal on this weekend. So yeah, I'm good. I am good, ready to go. Getting the new season. I don't know, happiness coming through.
Yeah, I'm feeling it too. It's getting real, which is great. I think having the Euros was nice, but having real football back is even nicer. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm getting the vibes back. I'm getting in the swing of things as well. And I actually forgot that we have a game on. This is Saturday, right? We have a game next against Man United.
It's like 1 o'clock on Sunday morning.
Okay.
You'll watch it, and then I'll get up and watch it at 7 in the morning on the replay probably.
Yeah, I'm getting my my Arsenal tattoo on Sunday, so I might need to not watch it. I don't know. We'll wait and see. But the $9.99 pack on Arsenal.com is calling me. It's calling me.
When you went $9.99, then I thought you were going to say your tattoo's $9.99, and knowing what you have done, I'm like, that's a dodgy price for that tattoo.
Yeah, I don't want to pay $9.99 for no tattoos. Right, we're going to start the show. Usual thing. We're going to start off with a Rip Room review. Jace, going to hand straight over to you with the baton. Tell me, how are you feeling after a few days of Arsenal coming back? What's your review for me?
A little heartbroken, I think, isn't everyone right now? Like, we'll talk about it in more detail, but the boy is going. He's going. He's going to Fulham, right? It's done. All I'm seeing on my Twitter feed is just homages to Emil Smith Rowe. And I know we'll talk about it more, but it's pulling on my heartstrings a little bit. Sad to see. It's also sad to see him go, knowing what he still can be. You know, he might become an amazing player at Fulham, in which case I bloody hope we've got a buyback clause in. Because I don't want, when Jack Wilshere went, he was injured. He was never going to be that. Emil Smith Rowe's had the major operation he needs, and he just needs game time, and Arteta wasn't prepared to give it to him in the position we're in. So, yeah, that's mulling over with that bit. But I'm not letting that bring my, overall vibe down, but just a little sad today when I saw my Twitter feed with Emil.
Is there an element where you've outgrown them a little, do you think? Or are you genuinely still a bit, you think there's still a place for him in this Arsenal side?
If we're going to sell Vieira, I'd keep Emil. And I think my heartstrings would prefer to sell Vieira and keep Emil. But yeah.
You're letting your heart steer your emotions there rather than your head, I think, Jace.
Yeah, probably. I mean, he needs to play. So I have no begrudgingness of him leaving if he wants to go and play.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to ask you that. I'm not going to do it now. I'm going to ask you later.
Yeah.
Kind of what is your favorite moment, because I think that would have been important. There was one on Twitter that I saw, which was the scene from Sopranos, where he turns on the radio, listens to the song, and gets all upset. And it had
I saw that.
that did pull on my heartstrings a little bit, because it was a bit sad to have one of our favorite songs for two really good players for the Arsenal, and part of the two players who really spearheaded the movement of where we're at today. So it is a bit of a shame. The one, I know this sounds silly, a bit of a silver lining that I look at from a fantasy football standpoint, Smith Rowe is going to go into a Fulham team as a starter, as a cheap starter as well. And I think he's going to be great. I think he's going to do great for Fulham if he can stay fit.
Yeah, I think he will.
I think that's the one key thing here, is that he just wasn't able to stay fit. Even when he was given maybe a game or two run in with Arteta, he was getting injured again. And so that is a shame, but it is what it is. I think my review was going to go kind of in the opposite to that, which was, it's a sign of the times. I kind of like it a little bit, to the point where at least it shows a bit of ruthlessness in the market, in not having maybe your emotions be taken over somewhat. You sometimes get this at work, when you've got individuals that you work with that you don't want to lose, and you feel connected to them, and you don't want them to go somewhere else, or you want to keep them at the job that you're at. And there's an element to that. I think 35 million is a pretty good price as well for him. So, I'm kind of like, my review is going to be the wheels are moving now. The wheels are turning. The transfer business is kicking off, and Edu has got the barbecue out and he's cooking because we are starting to see movement. Calafiore is all but done. Apparently on to America to get his medical. Obviously, we're looking to sell the likes of ESR, potentially other outgoings as well, which is going to mean there's going to be more incomings, more integration with the squad. I'm really excited to see where we strengthen and if we strengthen, and in the areas that we're going to do that, and where those marginal gains are going to come from. So, like you, I'm on board now, both feet in, ready to go for the season, and super excited to see where the rest of the summer takes us.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about for a couple of these players as well. We're thinking of bringing in, right? Midfield depth's going to be fun. Can't wait to talk about it.
We sorted the defense, midfield, then we just got to do attack. I swear we can talk about that later, but I swear Arteta's got some aversion to forward players. Right. Let's quickly go into, before we get on to all the transfer gossip, all the transfer news, all of that MacGuffins. Let's talk about the Bournemouth game. Arsenal played Bournemouth midweek in the preseason friendly. It ended up being a 1-1 draw, and then Arsenal won. I say won. It was a pre-arranged penalty shootout in which Arsenal did win 5-4. So nothing too exciting to write home about. I know that you caught the highlights, Jay. So talk to me a little bit about, we're not going to go in depth. We're not going to talk about all the players, but just talk to me a little bit about what you saw in those highlights. Anything that stood out to you as important for discussion?
Reece turning it on for the for Leicester. Turning it on for Leicester, right? He's giving them a little bit of a show reel, getting that wage offer up a little bit. Extra 20 grand a week, please, is what he's saying. But he did look quite sprightly on that left side, especially for that goal. A little bit of pace, flick it past the defender, take them on, which has been missing from his game, to be honest, when he's come on for Arsenal. Interestingly, though, actually, I just want to call this one thing out while I'm talking about him. We always brought him on when Saka was knackered. Yeah, that was when we came on. But that meant he played on the right. His best performances I've ever seen have come from the left-hand side of the pitch. Every time. I remember when he went on loan to, I want to say Hoffenheim. It was him and Jadon Sancho's first seasons in the Bundesliga, and they were both there, and everyone was raving about it. And we were happy. We were excited to see how well he was playing. He played on the left, and he was awesome. He had a great season. And I just think we slipped up there. That was just us. We can't retrieve it. He's not at the level he needs to be, but he may have been at the level if we'd have given him more game time on the left and invested in another person on the right for Saka. But yeah, interesting. I think he definitely had a good game. And Vieira, a bit of a revival for Vieira. What did you think about Fabio's performance?
Yeah, I thought Vieira, he was involved a lot, and he was heavily kind of involved. It was a weird kind of position for him to play. Like, he was playing basically on the right wing. We've seen him play there previously too. But I just don't kind of see them as his predominant kind of position, if where we would see him if Arsenal were at a full strength 11 and he was coming on.
But was that because Ethan January was in the middle, right? In with Odegaard in the middle, which is where you'd expect Fabio to be. And
yeah, and so you're kind of you're pushing him out. So I get why it's kind of there. And I would say his goal was tidy. He had a really tidy kind of finish. He was more involved than I've seen him in games where we've seen him from the beginning. I think I said this to you in the past. Like, you've mentioned January. And like, he was the one that I think I said on the last pod, like, he'd be the one I'd be putting my money on to kind of fill in that ESR gap. And everything that I saw from this game would bank on me saying he's going to get more starting berth this season. He looked really good. He drove between the lines with the ball at his feet. It's actually very similar to what we've seen from Smith Rowe when he first broke into the first team. Was a really good ball carrier, was really driven, was really good at protecting the ball, really good in possession. And I'm really excited to see if he does. My biggest concern about all of that is Arteta has never been great at giving time to academy players. Bearing in mind, Saka might be the exception rather than the rule. And I think he actually came into the team prior to Arteta as well.
Him. Emery times was when he joins.
Yeah.
But
So
Ethan, I was going to say Ethan Nwaneri has been told that he's going to get minutes this season. That was confirmed. He's been told that.
Yeah, I saw that in the Athletic too. But I take a lot of, I don't know, Arteta's management of the youth has probably been, for me, one of his biggest downfalls or his biggest blind spots. You look at comparisons to Pep and others who have utilised their youth prospects far greater than Arteta has, in my opinion. Even the likes of Rico Lewis, Lavia, Foden, like that's just like Arteta's just not been great at, and I'm just worried a little bit.
So step back. I'll challenge you a little bit there. Step back. When Pep Guardiola was building that squad in his first 3 or 4 seasons at City, Foden was a talent, but he didn't play at all. And I think Ethan Nwaneri is Arteta's version of Project Foden. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it, and I get where you're coming from. It's just, as a young prospect, you might look at that as kind of going, how long does it take me to break in? How many games am I happy to accept? He is only 17, so you've got to have a good agent behind you, firstly, and a good team behind you, because there will be people in his ear telling him he's better off elsewhere. He'll get more minutes here and there. He'll get better prospects here and there, depending on who he listens to. You know what I mean? We've said this before.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity here that and this is why I think a lot of your connection to Smith Rowe as well, like he's a Hale Ender, he's Arsenal through and through. I think there's even a quote from him saying, "This is my home for life," kind of thing. And that's like, there is risks there. But he showed promise here. And the fact that if we are moving on Smith Rowe played last year. If you're not going to replace him like for like, you're going to be moving somebody into that mold, and it might be Fabio, but it also might be Ethan.
I hope it's Ethan, if I'm honest, because he's a Hale Ender. And what he got bought on at 15. You remember the game against Brentford? Not last season, season before. Arteta brought on this 15. Was he 15 or 16? He was
the youngest Premier League player of all time at the time.
All time, sure. Yeah. So you do not get brought on at 15 if you're not a special player. He's not a Yamal. He's not a Yamal. Just to be clear, so, he's 16. He's breaking world records, but I think he's our Project Foden. Our Project Musiala, if you will.
We're going to sign Musiala anyway, right, Chase?
Well, maybe Ethan is the Musiala. I've got really high hopes for him as well, and he had a good little performance as well. I thought, from what I saw in the highlights. I mean, I didn't see the whole game. You saw it. Was he good?
Yeah, I really liked him. There was just to call out some of the other bits and pieces. Like I think Partey looked off of it. To be honest, he lost the ball in possession quite often. I mean, I'm surely that's probably going to lead to some of our conversation and transfers later on.
I've got some analogies there to talk about.
Yeah, I'd imagine. I also say Ben White was just a menace again. I just love Ben White. What a player! He's obviously had a whole summer break, and he was just, even in a friendly, he got a yellow card and got called up for just being a nuisance in the box and pissing off their keeper. And it just even in a friendly, it just made me laugh that he's still doing Ben White things, but he was overlapping, he was powerful, he was quick, just really, really good. And that's where this is my problem a little bit. Well, it's a good problem to have. Who's going to be our back four? Because when Calafiori comes in and you've got him, Timber, Ben White, Gabriel, Saliba, there is not enough space for all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you going to play? Because I will say that Timber, he didn't look like he missed a beat. And he looks so strong and he looks so powerful, and he's really good on the ball. He's so technical. The game that we win, I think, did we go to the game when he played against City? I think we did, didn't we?
City in the
Community Shield
first game, he was good.
He was like,
very good.
I know we only got to see that and then half of a game against Bournemouth. I can't remember the first game of the season he played, like Forest. But it was just like he looked like a different breed of player. And yes, you're going to have a career-changing potential injury there that he's going to have to come back from, and he's probably is going to be eased in. He did play the last game of the season, but I'd love to see him in. But then it's like, can't just get him in to replace Ben White, because Ben White has been our best. He's the best right back in the league for 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really difficult situation for us to be in, I think, and a good problem to have, like I say, but a difficult one that Arteta's going to have to manage well.
Yeah, I sport for choice, to be honest, aren't we? I have a preference. I think I know what the starting. Well, actually, I think I know what the starting back four would be at the start of the season. I think it actually is debatable, because if Saliba and Gabriel come back in time for those first games of the season, fit is a big question mark, which I think is why we were playing Timber at centre back, right?
Mm-hmm.
But ideally, right now, based on what I know, Calafiori's got earned his place in the squad. You don't just come in and walk into that back four. He had an amazing Euros, yes, but he doesn't walk into that back four. That back four is White, Gabriel, Saliba, Timber, and that's a hell of a back four.
Yeah,
I just get excited talking about that. That's a very good back four. And then knowing you've got Calafiori, knowing you've got Tomiyasu, it's 2 solid choices. Knowing if we really need something different right now, you can put Zinchenko in an invert. Though, and he's open. I don't think he's going, because he's openly said, "I'll play wherever the boss wants me to play in the squad." So I think he's still going to be.
Does that position include playing on the bench?
Sounds like it, because Kiwior is going to be the one we try and get rid of, right?
I think there's better value in Kiwior, if I'm honest, as well. And particularly Bayern seem to be the only suitor to Zinchenko that would have paid good money.
Well, Vincent's company's the manager there now as well, isn't he? So you could see that.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it was a good game to get movement in the legs, some fitness. Nothing too exciting to write home about. I'm hoping that this weekend's game against Man United, as considering Ten Hag says they don't play friendlies despite losing to Rothenburg, I think it was last week. I'm looking forward to seeing that game, at least, because the last friendly we had against United last year was a feisty one.
Tasty. And in the crowd. Do you remember that?
Yeah, he had a lot of fighting and stuff as well.
That's fighting in the MetLife Stadium in New York, wasn't it?
I know. Here's one thing as well. I don't know if have you got the Calafiori song stuck in your head? Because I certainly have.
When he plays at the back, he'll stop your attack, Calafiori. He plays for Mickey.
He plays for Mickey. Red. It's good. I had it stuck in my head all week. My wife's like, "Oh my god, will you shut up?" So I'm looking forward to singing that in the stands at least. Right, let's move on to talk about transfers. We've already talked about a lot of Smith Rowe, I guess, but I'm asking you the question anyway because it's at the forefront of my mind. Give me, if ESR is to go, what is your favourite Smith Rowe moment?
I've said it a few times, I think, because I'm assuming you're going to go for Chelsea.
I am.
So you can talk about that. For me, it's the goal against Spurs, sliding on his knees, in front of the home fans, just heartbeats for that moment. And he also assisted on that day as well. We had a great game that day. I think everyone says, "Oh, it was the game against Chelsea," but for me, it was the game against Spurs. It's just the one. We were there. I remember that day, just being in the ground. It was a day when we were like, should we go? Like, because we'd left it last minute, and we ended up buying the really, really expensive tickets, like really expensive, and we were so happy that we didn't let Arsenal's extortion.
We had a really good view as well. We were right in the middle, weren't we?
Oh, it was perfect. Yeah. And it was such a good day, just such good memories. And my favorite memory of him is that ball in from Saka, him running in. He's done it a few times where he would run in to the box in between 16 and 8 yard, loose pass in there, and he'd put it in back of the net, side foot. And that's just the favourite kind of finish that he used to do. So my favourite memory of him is that. So talk to me about that Chelsea game then. Go on.
Yeah, I think it was, like you say, maybe it's just, it feels like the catalyst for where we're at today. That game in particular, it was after a torrid run for Arteta. I think we were on a losing streak of however many games. I think at the time we were somewhere near the foot of the table. We were in a really bad position. And Arteta's was kind of hand was forced somewhat to change some of the starting 11. And he came into that game, like you were talking about it earlier, in similar veins to when he started. Like it was like he was meant for it. Everything he touched was gold. Every turn, every drop of the shoulder, every drive, it was all gold dust. And it was like we was just kind of like all Arsenal fans at the time were clamoring for what is the solution to this problem, because nobody could see it. Nobody could see how we were going to get out of that rut. And Smith Rowe and Saka, by association, kind of pulled us out from the trenches there and have really, like I say, turned what was not, it certainly wasn't the worst time. We've seen a lot worse banter years in Arsenal. I don't think any of us thought we were going to get relegated or be at there. You know, we've had Shortdown Mustafi play for us, so we know where the trenches are. But yeah, it was just like a moment in time that you kind of put lightning in a bottle, and it's just great to see. And it is. I still look back on that game. You watch clips of it now. It's just a weird time as well during COVID, where there's no fans in the stadium and stuff like that. It just feels a bit odd watching it as well. You imagine if that was in the crowd, in the stadium with a crowd, man, would have been off. Would have been absolutely off, and it would have just been absolutely electric to see. And yeah, I just hope he can bring. You know, he has showed that season in particular was the best one, but obviously he has shown flashes in and out of this squad over the past kind of 3 years. I just hope he can turn some of that form into a much a run of good games for Fulham. You know, getting 20 to 30 games a season would be ideal for him, and getting him back to where his best is. Like I say, sad to see him go. I do think we've outgrown him, but I look back on that performance with fond memories for sure.
Yeah.
Right, so let's move on to transfers then. I think you've got a name at the forefront of your mind. Who do you want to talk about, Jess?
Oh, I mean, I've got a few, but Marino's the one that's been talked about most, right? He's the person I've been watching the long YouTube videos of in the last few days to try and understand a little bit of what he is about. So, I mean, I'll break it down for you. Passing, I was going, should I give this a score out of what I've seen? But it's really hard to judge, right? I've not watched him loads, but he's got a great long range pass. His short game's not so obvious from the clips I've seen. Like no one really in a Vita video compilation is putting together short clips of short passing. It's just not interesting to watch in YouTube videos. So it's very hard to find that. But there's a lot of long range passing that's captured there. That just looks sound, crisp. The kind of how we switch the play occasionally. He's definitely got that in his locker. Interceptions, big interceptions. You have to assume from what I'm seeing, he's going to play in the 6. That's what I'm assuming.
You don't think he'll play in the left 8?
Well, I want to talk about this because we've got another midfielder that suddenly randomly popped out of nowhere that we're going after as well at the same time. And I wonder if we're going to bring in both. It's quite funny. So I want to talk about this.
I'll see you later, Declan Rice.
Well, no, I actually think that there's method in this madness. Just bear with me. Just bear with me is what I'm saying.
Right, all good.
And we're not kicking Deck out of place. Trust me. But yeah, I think he's got some good interceptions. Finishing, there's a lot of in the box finishing, a lot of like running into the 18-yard box with tap-ins. Or like within just before you get to the 6-yard box, kind of tapping in. So he's pretty good at that, and some strong headers. I think he scored a header in the Euros as well. I think from one of the clips I showed, I don't think he was in a Spain shirt. So yeah, he looks very strong. The way I describe this, the comparison, which is going to get so many laughs from anyone who supports another team. Who is listening to this podcast or watching the YouTube? He gives me Rodri vibes.
Okay, fine. I don't know why.
What do you think I was going to say?
I don't know why I was going to say Scott McTominay.
Oh no! We're not going there. This guy's won a European Championships, mate. You can't go there. Jesus.
Scotland went to the European Championships, Jays.
How they do?
That's said the better.
No, the reason I say that, there's quite a few of the last-ditch tackles. There's a way that he's able to switch play quite quickly. There's a few elements of where he demonstrates a lot of acceleration running through the park. And just I had to what I did method in the madness, as I say. You know, I'm not just coming up with this comparison because I want him to be our version of Rodri. I don't know if he will be, but I had to go watch a Rodri compilation video just to compare the two. The main thing really is if I look at Rodri, he's scoring a lot more long range goals. There's Rodri's volume of long range efforts and outside the box is ridiculous. I don't really enjoy Rodri as a player and a person, some of the things he says, but he's a great footballer. And when I look at what I'm seeing in Merino, you can't compare them like for like, but they do play in the same team for Spain. I feel like they've got 3 central midfielders, all quite similar in certain ways in Spain. And we'll talk about the other one in a minute as well. But yeah, Rodri is a good comparison for me. And I think I think we are missing a Rodri-like player in our squad. So I would be very, very happy with this signing. Very happy. Yeah. Have you watched anything of him?
Well, I have a little bit, but not a great deal. But I've read a lot more about him, and I would say that I watched Charles Watt's podcast yesterday. He was very much like, we're big admirers. There's definitely interest. He thinks it's one that will happen, or at least we'll try and push for it. And for the price, I think it was like 28 or something was quoted. It seems like a real reasonable amount of money, albeit I think he's 28 himself, I think.
We got Partey at 28, didn't we?
Yeah, so I'm not saying you're getting them in their best years, but it feels like quite a different signing to a lot of Arteta's usual signings. But I would say this: what I've read is he certainly suits our system. It's one of the biggest things that Arteta loves is duel winners. You know, ones that relish the opportunity to win duels. That's one thing that he does really, really well. But he also has a lot of the other abilities that we kind of look for, whether it's that long passing that you mentioned, because Arteta's not, from what I've seen of Arteta, not a great fan of long passing. He much prefers that short game, much prefers keeping control of the ball, and he can do that. He has a little bit of dribbling, not loads, but really good at combination play. I think he can play like in the 6 and the 8, like you say, so maybe there is room to rotate and move in and out of those different things, but he's tall. So Arteta loves a big tall boy, physically strong, really athletic, progressive. I think there's a lot of talk in the past about Rice not being progressive enough. If you don't look at his data and don't watch a lot of football, then you wouldn't know, but Rice is progressive. So he fits the mold. And, you know, we've seen him, like you say, when he's in a team around him that's going to be really disciplined, control the ball, and really, really progressive, I think he'll suit us really, really well. So, but the other player that you're talking about, I don't know, feels to me more of our type of signing. So you mentioned the other player, that's Fabian Ruiz, right?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
And he feels more, I don't know, more our type of signing. You know, where Merino feels more like a Jorginho, Ruiz feels more like a Rice.
Okay. Why does he feel more like a Rice?
Well, not in terms of but more of the age profile. Yeah, where we feel him kind of fitting in, the goal scoring. I think Fabian Ruiz is probably a little bit better from what I can tell, or at least more output. And that's where we've talked about our left eights in the past. Like you look at Xhaka, in Xhaka's final season, when we finally kind of molded that left 8 position to his own, he was scoring goals for fun that season. We really do need to bring in goals from there. So I don't mean it in type of style of play by comparison to Rice, more of the profile of player and the attributes that Arteta kind of likes and glorifies in his position. Also, I think he's relatively out of favour at PSG. And that could work in our favour a little bit in terms of movement. I know there's interest in Merino from Barcelona, albeit that I don't know if they're going to pay him in chorizo or something like this. They're not going to pay money, put it that way, because they haven't got any.
They can't even afford Williams, so they ain't going to get Merino, are they?
So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Well, tell me what you think. I've not seen a lot about Ruiz other than I obviously saw a little bit of him in the Euros. looked really strong in the Euros, really good output in the Euros. Can show that he can do really well in a functioning team. I know that he's been, like I say, out in the cold a little bit for PSG, but they're a bit of a, well, they were up until recently. Give the ball to Mbappe and see what happens, and we know how that turned out.
Yeah, exactly. I think you can make anything out of that. The way I would describe it is he's the Thomas Partey replacement, I think. The reason I say that is the way that I don't know if you remember for Spain, he did some amazing turns in the Euros, quick feet in difficult positions with long dangly legs, kind of grabbing in, winning the ball, and then quick feet out of tight positions. He's able to wrangle through really tight gaps and awkward spaces, which is a very Thomas Partey characteristic. And that's why I think we're getting both of them. Because do you remember last year when I said we were going, it was like, we've got Rice, and then it was like, are we going to get Lavia? Or are we going to get Caicedo? Like
we never really had a Xhaka replacement, right? Because Rice wasn't the Xhaka replacement.
Yeah. And we always said we need one more. Because we at that point didn't think Partey was coming back, did we? We didn't think we were going to see Partey play for Arsenal again. And I don't think we're going to see Partey play much more for Arsenal.
I'm just not sure on that.
I think Partey's going, and I think we're bringing both in. And I also think that Fabian Ruiz or even Merino, not in the 8. Well, they are playing in the 8, but they're not playing in the left 8. They're playing in the right 8. Odegaard can't play every game like he did last season. He's going to play most, but not all. And I can see us flipping it, if that makes sense. Sometimes Rice or one of them's going to need to be rested. And I can see us flipping the formation to have the more creative player on the left side and having the more all-rounded midfielder on the right side. And then you're still going to need someone being backed up. So I see room for Fabian Ruiz, Merino, and Rice all in that midfield, and Odegaard. I can see that working. I can see us interchanging because we need depth. We need decent players at depth. That's what we didn't have. Look at Man City when they don't have Rodri.
Yeah, the only thing the Partey problem is I just can't see anyone paying his wages. He's on a hefty wedge, and unless it's Saudi, which I don't think. I don't know. They're not throwing around as much money. I don't think I've seen as much of that. Although I don't know if you saw this. Musa Diaby's gone. Is it Musa from Villa?
Villa, yeah.
And like there was talk of us, when we were talking about getting him to the right wing backup for Saka, and then missing out. Or like when Villa bought him, I think they paid 30 million or something like that.
Yeah,
wasn't a lot. And now I think they sold him for like 60. Was it 60?
Yeah, there's been some dodgy transfer business for Aston Villa this window.
Okay, well, so we're gonna get all of them. But I think I said this earlier. Like, it just feels, I don't know what it is. Arteta's aversion to forward players, but it's like we're just gonna collect like a Thanos with an Infinity Gauntlet full of defenders and midfielders, like as he just keeps absorbing all of the talent in these places because these are good. These are good talent. Like I think Arteta's very much used the terminology was like market opportunity, and I think some of these players are fitting that mold as well, where there's an opportunity at good cost, good players work in the system.
There is. I was also a little bit of he wants winners in his team, and he's gone. Who's winners? Spain have just won the European Championships. I'll have him. Him. He wants Williams.
Well, he is Spanish as well, so he can obviously speak to them in their native tongue. I do wonder whether or not Fabian Ruiz feels a bit like a smokescreen, somewhat maybe, to go into Merino. It could be like a little bit of a league to show that we've got interest in other players to see if there's
maybe
drive the price. Maybe
I'll take both, and then I'll take Williams. Like that. Genuinely though, let me ask you a question: if because there's one other player we've said about talking about here, but if it was just one of those and Williams, and that was it for the window, would you be happy?
Oh, 100%. 100%. You look what we did like all when we look at last year and what we did and how we got where we got to and where we fell short, there wasn't many other areas that you look at and you go, there's where we need to get those incremental gains. And those three, if we lose Smith Rowe, Nketiah, Vieira, let's say, even Zinchenko, let's say we use all those 4 players, and then you just get those 3 players that you've just mentioned. We get maybe a Marino, a Williams, and Calafiori. That's a perfect window in my opinion.
Okay.
But the thing is, with Williams, like I said, I'd love to have Williams. He is not going to sit on the bench.
We won't be sitting on the bench. Martin Elliott.
I know, but then like we've got
on the bench.
other problems, right? But this is where, like, plus I don't think there's a 5% or less chance that Nico Williams is coming to Arsenal.
You think? I read today that we're keeping our powder dry towards the end of the window because they don't think Barcelona have got the finances to get the deal over the line. So it'll be we'll take him at the end of the window.
I can see that, but I'd also argue then it's like as a player, he might just sit and wait out for another year.
I mean, he could.
I don't know. But I agree with you there. I do think some of our business is going to be left till very late on in the window to see what opportunities arise because we're going to have some money. I think one thing we need to do this year, better than we have done in previous years, is sell. We did this before where we didn't sell, we bought players, and then we were up the stream without the paddle, right? We were having to get rid of players for really low value because everyone knew we had to sell and we had nothing to barter with. We look like we're at least doing some of that now, at least, which is good.
Yeah. You
want to talk about Gyökeres? I've probably butchered it. Gyökeres.
You've done much better than I would have done. I mean, let's talk about him a little bit. He looks quite lethal in the box. Have you watched? First of all, I've been talking about loads of players. Have you watched any of the highlights reels for him?
I have. He is an out and out goal scorer.
Yeah.
So I've seen a lot of his goals. Like I say, he's a menace in the box. He's pacey. 43 goals and 50. I mean, this is the problem that you're looking at the Primeira Liga. The Portuguese league is not strong. They're not particularly strong. Like in similar vein to Scotland or France, you've got a couple of teams that are really good, and then the rest of it is mediocre. But that's not to take away from the fact that he can do things with the ball, and that is something we have lacked. Like getting a player in the box that can be that you feed in the ball, can do dangerous things with it. And I think, like again, if an opportunity arises that we can buy him for a good price. It'd be interesting to see whether or not, because I do think there's you talk about keeping powder dry. I think we're going to keep it dry for another year for the striker, in my personal opinion. I think we're going to see where the striker landscape finds itself next year with the likes of Sesko having another year, with the likes of where Tony might end up or not, because if he doesn't leave, does he go on a free next year? Is he on a Bosman next year if he doesn't leave now?
Yeah, he's on a Bosman.
So there's points there, but I'm assuming you're looking what you've looked and you're like, I want him.
Okay, I think he's tasty. I think he's strong. He's got pace. As you say, dangerous with the ball at his feet. He just looks like a bit of a machine. I like it. A bit rugged as well. Something quite rugged about him. However, I do like you question. I mean, how many strikers have come out of the Portuguese league and made it in England? Darwin.
Oh, that's a question. You said made it, didn't you, Jace?
Yeah, Darwin Núñez is. I don't think has yet proven himself properly for the money he cost. I can't think of any.
I mean, Jota, but he's not really a striker.
Jota's been decent. I mean, I was thinking surely Chelsea bought someone who came from. Did Diego Costa come from Porto?
No, he was.
Or
yeah, but
was he from? Or did he come from Atletico?
Atletico Madrid, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think he might have played for Porto before then. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm making that up. I can't think of anyone.
Where did Jota come from? He is Portuguese, but did he play? Where was he before he went to Liverpool? Now he was from Atletico
He was
Madrid as well.
Jota was from Wolves and went to Liverpool.
Yeah, so he went Atletico Madrid, Wolves.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. That's the risk, right? But the video clips look great. But the question is around the quality of opposition he's playing against and whether you can do that same thing against quality of opposition in the Premier League. The other question I have, I'll ask this question to you. Does he fit in with our style of play? Can you see how he fits in the front line based on how he plays?
This is part of the problem. I was watching a really good video that was talking about the striker profile for Arsenal, and one thing, I think it was by JJ Bull, who does for the Tifo podcast. He was talking about the 3 areas in which a striker needs to play for an Arsenal, and it was like goal scoring or like ability. It was driving, like the press, being the forward press. This is one thing that Arteta, I tried to get Nketiah to do, but just can't seemingly do it. Like he's good with the ball, he can good at striking, but he can't lead the line, he can't press. Yeah. And that's the bit that I've maybe not seen enough of Gyökeres to kind of say if I think he can do that. Because this is the same reason why I think Tony is not necessarily the right profile either, because I'm not too sure that he can do that part, the off the ball play and movement, hold up, press as well. Like that's where I think we've said it on this pod before. You look at Havertz and sometimes he can look a bit lackadaisical and a bit like he's not involved in games, but his off the ball movement and his press, in a similar vein to Ødegaard, his intensity is incredible, and that's one thing that we need. And I'm just not too sure there's enough there for it.
I actually think we're giving Gabriel Jesus one more season to prove himself, because the way he's come back in training.
I totally forgot. I totally forgot.
Look, that he plays for us. He does press though, doesn't he? He does press. That's the thing.
He does, but this is another that I think in the video that I watched, it's like a similar thing. It's like Nketiah can't do one of those parts, and Gabriel Jesus can, but then Gabriel Jesus is not very good just with the ball at his feet.
We miss goals when he's in the side.
But like you say, that's what you've talked before, how much you love his play for the team rather than his goal scoring output. And it's like Arteta will be in the market looking for players that can fit the mold of all of those aspects and doing well in all of those aspects.
If we got rid of Reece and we brought in Williams, then Jesus is Saka backup as well on the right, because we don't have another right winger. Unless Martinelli goes on the right, which is a possibility as well.
We briefly mentioned a second ago, and I didn't want to kind of go off Gyökeres, but like we mentioned Tony real quickly, and I'd heard a nasty rumor on Twitter that Tottenham were interested in signing Ivan Toney. Do you think that's a problem?
I mean, he's not a problem for us at Brentford. Why is he a problem for us at Spurs? I don't think so. I mean, if we want him, then it's a problem for us.
I know, but it's one of those, one of those situations where it's like, you can't have I only want it because you've got it, or I don't want you to have it. Because
I think he becomes a bit of a cultural. I don't want to use the word hate is too strong, but there are players that Arsenal fans don't like if they play for Tottenham. They become very. Like if I said
all of them.
Well, not all of them. Wow. If I said to you Teddy Sheringham, what do you think of?
I don't like him. It's also because he played for Man United, and I don't like Man United either.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly, but they're just players you don't like, and it's nothing against them as humans. It's just how the character, the persona, who they are on the pitch. In some cases, that's not the ways they behave in real life. But I could see if he went to Tottenham, I think he'd be one of those figures for Arsenal fans. Because he's a very tuned in person when he's on the pitch. So
I would say that what we talked about class exuding from Arsenal, and obviously there's Tony did get a ban, and I do think some of his attitude and the way he's spoken about Brentford once coming back or on the way for coming back, like the way he talks, he's like he's just bigger and better than Brentford. Which is
Yeah.
fair enough if you can think like that, but he hasn't got a deal. And also, he's had 6 months to kind of put his name into people's minds, and he's had a torrid 6 months and been pretty awful, frankly. And so it just
Well,
makes you look a bit like a joke when you've done that.
in the Euros, he had a go at Southgate about bringing him on. Do you remember that? And then he got a header for the assist for the. Is it for the equal with Jude's winner or the?
I mean, I was saying that because he put him on like 93 minutes or so, wasn't it? I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah. But I mean,
I just wanted to get your temperature check on it as all, Jace, because if it happens, it's just one of those things. I kind of feel like, when I'm not really that hungry, and you see someone eating like a McDonald's or something, you're like, well, I want that now. I'm not even hungry.
Yeah, but McDonald's.
I mean, I'm always hungry.
McDonald's isn't great food anyway, so we'd rather have
First of all,
I'd rather have a Five Guys.
All right, fair enough. I just don't want to pay a lot of money for it. We've gone on from Gyökeres to Ivan Toney to the cost of a Five Guys. If that's not the type of content you're into, then I'm afraid there's nothing for you here. Right. I'm going to move on to the parking lot, if you don't mind, Jay. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Right. I did want to bring up, I read an article saying I thought it was interesting. Arteta's contract with Arsenal expires at the end of this season coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And with less than a year as it stands, he'll be free to walk away. But there's no panic, there's no anxiety, there's no possibility yet, I don't think, of him not signing. It's quite zen. But playing devil's advocate, if Pep Guardiola does say he's leaving Man City at the end of this coming season, what then? If that announcement comes out and Arteta hasn't signed a new deal, do we start to worry? Or do you think that Arteta has found his home here at the Arsenal?
Arteta's found his home. Why's Pep leaving?
Well, rats off a sinking ship, 115 charges and everything that comes with it. But that's just my opinion.
I think the City boat is. I don't know if they've taken an iceberg hit yet. It feels there's something not feeling quite right though about that.
So you're not worried then about Arteta and his contract and anything like that? You think that's all semantics being worked out?
Well, there was an interview he did where he was asked about it, right? And he basically implied that it was being worked on, discussed. I think he's a man of his words, and I think he knows that. And I think in the interview he did at the beginning of the season, I think I can't remember exactly what he said, so I might need to be pulled up and told I'm incorrect here, but he talked about us winning for years and years to come, or like this. There's a growth thing here, and I think he's still in it. He's not a jump ship. He was schooled under Arsene Wenger, David Moyes. He worked for Pep Guardiola. He's seen the longevity he's had at City. I don't think he's jumping ship yet until he's achieved something with us. And I don't think just winning a league this year is going to do it. He's got to win it all. So he's invested so much, and there's too much going on at City to join there right now. There's too much Premier League charges. They can't spend money as much like they used to. We're growing. We're on the upwards, and I'm not sure. City have peaked. Whether they're flatlining or whether they're now on a down slope, I don't know. But they're not necessarily on the upward trajectory anymore. So I think, I have faith. I have faith.
Okay, you heard it here first.
Him. What do you think?
No, I agree with you. I just, it's one of those things that that you never know. Anything could happen here, and there are elements where I wonder if there's certain times where you think, even in management, in your work environment, sometimes you have to accept that you can only take you or your team or your position so far. And he might get to a place this year, if he doesn't win, it's going to be, I don't think there's no calling for his head or anything like that. Like I'm all in for Arteta, the things that he's done for this club, the culture that he's built, the winning mentality within the players, albeit not won the big one yet. But the connection to the club more than anything is the biggest thing that has changed for me. And I wouldn't swap that for any kind of flash in the pan, Chelsea style, Mourinho or others league title. Just it's a tad empty and meaningless to me. But I would say there are elements, where you're kind of like, I can only take them so far. I used the analogy earlier for ESR, like we've kind of outgrown him. And I wonder if there's a point in Arteta's tenure where he looks at it and kind of goes, I've done all that I could and I still can't take them that next level, maybe. I can't see it yet, but it might not be this year. But there's certainly, if we don't win something again this year, he's going to be having difficult conversations, I imagine, because he's just like, how much more can I do?
I'm going to say something here.
Go on.
And it will cement his place. He's getting a statue.
All right.
He's getting a statue.
Has to be the Champions League then, Jace.
That statue will be Mikel Arteta holding the Champions League, whoever said.
Yeah, is this going to be? We need to do a prediction show actually. So you could have saved that for a bold predictions show. But I'm going to pretend like I didn't hear it. Listeners, watchers, viewers, plug your ears. You're going to wait.
I didn't say it'd be this season, because I said last season we're going to win the Champions League. I was confident about it. I'm not sure. I feel like we want to win the league first before we win the Champions League, and that tends to be most teams' natural growth, right? As they go league, then Champions League, and maybe unless you're Liverpool, where you just for some reason just want to win the Champions League all the time and lose in finals to Real Madrid. So I think they lost twice, didn't they? Something like that. Hook.
Get the fishing rod out.
Yeah, but we'll see.
Okay, well, I've had an enjoyable time. I hope you have too, Jace. Thank you for our viewers for joining us. Jace, if they are listening to us, where can they listen to us?
You can listen to us on your podcast provider of choice, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Just put Roaring Reds in, we appear there. If you do listen, give us a 5-star review. 5 stars, no less, because Greg will get very angry at you. And I guess, Greg, what about on the YouTubes?
Yeah, you know what to do. Like and subscribe, please. We would love to have you here as we distribute more content over the course of this season. We're really looking forward to welcoming guests onto the show. If that would be or could be you, then reach out to us, please. We'd be more than happy to welcome others onto the pod and discuss Arsenal. And we will be back probably this weekend or after this weekend, after we play Man United. We'll probably talk a little bit about that and the upcoming game against Liverpool, as well as any other transfer gossip, because I'm sure there'll be more of it coming down the pipe over the coming days. Really appreciate you joining us. Hopefully, we'll see you all again very soon.
Cool. Cheers, guys.
Come on, you Red